All right, so we're on now, and just checking the page. I guess there's a little bit of a delay here. So glad to see you guys made it early. Got a couple more minutes here. Gonna hang out for a bit and catch up on some of the new people who just joined us here. Ice Magic, I like that name. Front-end web dev, nice. That's my background. Ben, welcome, mobile app developer, or consultancy, very cool. Welcome, Zeke. Hey, Blaine, how are you doing? Zeke, you're an electronics engineer. That sounds interesting. So are you guys staying warm out there? Because it is absolutely freezing here in Connecticut. This weather has been pretty brutal over the last couple weeks. Where's everybody coming from? Peter, you're from the UK. Nice. Thanks for joining us. I guess it's a little later in the day for you. Jay Perez-ish. Sorry, I don't know your first name, but you just posted here that you're in a mastermind with one other person, early stages of productizing your businesses and looking for a third and a final person. I think that's awesome. You know, anytime people are connecting up in mastermind groups, it's great. I'm actually in 2 mastermind groups myself, actually 3. One of them meets periodically, and they are so helpful for sure. I know that in our community for Productize, a couple of guys have been, and gals have been connecting up and forming their own mastermind groups as well, which has been really awesome to see. Jason, you're not far in NYC. I'm about an hour north of New York City. Cool. North Carolina, a couple more from the UK. Welcome, everyone. Oh, 71 degrees in SoCal. All right, you're going to make all of us jealous here. AGP from Mexico. I'm sure it's not nearly as cold down there either. Very cool. WordPress designer, developer, consultant. Welcome, merchant guru. Sure, it's not me. Any skiers and snowboarders out here? At least we can take advantage of this weather in some way, right? Hey, Jason, welcome from Columbus. Rick Brown from Toronto, welcome. Oh, cool. I was just talking to someone, Chris, someone from Westchester, PA. Interesting. Hey, so I know we have a lot of web developers and web designers and some WordPress people. Are there any non-web people here, like other types of consultants and fields and industries? I know there was one electrical engineer. That sounds interesting. Anything else? Any cool fields here? A lot of snowboarders here. Good to see the snowboarders. Are there more snowboarders than skiers, at least? Jason, what tool am I using to do this webinar? So most of the pages that you've seen, and this page here is custom built. The webinar itself, like the video, is through Google Hangouts on Air, which allows me to broadcast live. And then the nice thing is after the webinar is over, it's automatically, within a matter of minutes, ported over. The recording is on YouTube. So that's how I'm able to get the replay out. The emails and everything that you guys have seen, I'm using Drip to schedule the emails, and I just wrote all of the custom emails, just scheduled them out myself. It's not a single software. Marketing writer, consultant, very nice. Life of language, cool. A couple iOS developers here, very nice. Ice Magic, or Acestein, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. From the French Alps. Ooh, I'm jealous about that. That sounds amazing. So we've got about another 6 or 7 minutes before we'll start up. Good to meet everyone. Very nice. Hey, Kai, how are you? Good to see you. SEO and Outreach from Kai Davis. So I've been collecting a lot of the questions that have been coming in through the questionnaire. Been going through them. There's been a lot of them. I was up late last night, kind of going through those, and I picked out a handful of them that I'll cover at the end during the Q&A for sure. Of course, if you guys have questions throughout the presentation, you can leave them there in the chat. I won't necessarily be watching the chat during the presentation, but I'll definitely go through it afterward and scroll through any questions that come in, and I'll get everybody's question answered during the Q&A at the end. Motion graphics and animator, very cool. Jordan, cool. Ah, these guys in the Southwest, 70 degrees. Come on. It's about 12 or 13 degrees here today and snowing again. It never ends. Anybody going to interesting conferences in the next couple of months? I'm booked to go to MicroConf in Vegas in April, and that's about it for now. Maybe something else later in the year. Maybe I'll meet some of you there. Michael from Germany. I'm impressed. There are a lot of Europeans here today, more than I would have expected. Very cool. And I know it's a little bit later for you guys, so I appreciate you joining us live. Jared from Western Massachusetts. That's not too far from me. A couple hours. Oh, Leo from Costa Rica. I am jealous. 90 degrees. We traveled to Costa Rica a couple of years back, and it had a great time down there. I want to go back. We've actually been talking about, someday later in life, that would be the place we want to get a vacation home or retirement or something. The dream. Argentina, South America. So from as far as I know, you're the first to represent South America here today. And of course, we've got our Canadians here. Very nice. Hey, Mel Richards, good to see you. Yes, microcomp sold out in something like 4 minutes. Just craziness. Shane Black from Australia. Man, it must be, I don't know what time it is there right now. Is it tomorrow there or something? Is it late night for you there? Huh. All right, so we're gonna get started up in just about 2 minutes. And get things set up on my end. Dino is saying that he's not hearing any sound. Is anyone else having this problem? I got to make sure it's not coming from my end. Mel Richards asks us, is this webinar jam? Interesting name there. Oh wow, Shane, 5 a.m. That's impressive. Thank you for joining here today. That's dedication. Good to see you're waking up early though. I'm a big advocate of waking up early. Partly because my baby daughter wakes us up early, so there's that. Okay, cool. So the audio is coming in. Very nice. And I'm going to get started up here in just a second. I'm going to get the slides queued up. All right, so here we are. It is 2 p.m. Eastern time, and so thank you all for joining here today. I'm thrilled that all of you made it here live. I know it's different time zones for everyone, and the weather is kind of crazy in some parts of the world. Definitely crazy over here. It's freezing and it's snowing and it's wet and slushy and it's not fun at all. But here I am in the office and glad to be joining all of you here today. So as you know, we're going to be talking about launching and growing a productized service. And I'm going to teach this lesson, which should run about 30 to 40 minutes or so. And then after that, we'll do a live Q&A. So I'll get everybody's questions answered at the end. And I'll stay here. I've got all afternoon to talk to you guys and connect and answer your questions. So I did receive a lot of questions from the workshop questionnaire form that I had sent out, which was awesome. I read through all of them and picked out a lot of really great questions to answer. Of course, if you guys have questions near the end, feel free to post them in the chat, and I will, at the end during the Q&A, I'll scroll through the chat and answer all those questions. I won't actually be able to keep my eye on the chat during the presentation, but I will check it out at the end. I'm just going to get a little water here, and then we'll get started. So as you may know, I'm Brian Castle. Anytime you guys have a question about anything, want to reach out, my email is brian@castjam.com, and you can connect with me on Twitter @castjam. So a couple of years back, I found myself in this position where I really felt stuck. And by most standards, I was making a fairly successful living as a freelance web designer. I had a growing client base. My project fees were increasing. I had more leads than I needed to fill up my calendar. But I still had this nagging feeling in my gut, like Like, is this it? Is this what success is supposed to feel like? Something was bothering me. I just felt kind of stuck. And so, like any good web developer, I started troubleshooting, figuring out what's broken, what's wrong here, what am I not happy about in my current situation. And so I gave it a lot of really hard thought, and this was over a period of months, really. And here's what I came up with. What was immediately apparent was that if I wasn't at my desk working or on my laptop somewhere, then I wasn't earning an income. And that really hit home for me when my wife and I wanted to book our 5-day vacation to Costa Rica. I was actually chatting with someone here in the chat room from Costa Rica about this. This was a couple of years back. We took a 5-day trip to Costa Rica, and not only did I have to look into the cost of our flights and the hotel that we were staying at, but I also had to look at the cost of me not working for a full week. Not to mention the added stress of playing catch up when I got right back to work after the vacation. And as I said, I had plenty of well-paying clients, even some pretty well-known brands in my portfolio. But there were too many times when I felt I had to push back on their requests. And at times my clients just didn't fully appreciate my service because they didn't really see the value in it. To them, I was just another vendor. But what really got to me was what I felt on a day-to-day basis. Most of the time, I just didn't love the work. And when I left my job to go freelance a couple of years earlier, this was, let's see, I left my job back in end of 2007, maybe January 2008. I made that switch because I wanted to get out of bed every morning and dive into the work that I love to do. And for me, an ideal day is when I get to think creatively and make a real impact. But at this point in my freelance career, I found that I was spending most of my time caught up in the mundane, unrewarding, busy work. So let me tell you about one example of this kind of thing. And that's really the discovery process. I dreaded doing the discovery process. And I'm sure most of us are familiar with this, maybe call it different things and whatnot. But when I say discovery process, what I'm talking about is that whole song and dance that happens when a potential new client inquires about hiring you for a project. And for me, there was one particular client discovery that just really got to me. And if I think back, this actually happened many times over the course of my freelancing years, but this one really sticks out. So let me tell you this story. So it was 2011, and this guy Tom contacted me about starting a new project. So Tom was an entrepreneur, and he had an idea to build a new advertising platform. And so I ran through my usual discovery process with Tom. We had an initial email and a phone call to discuss budget and goals, and we seemed to be on the same page there. So I went ahead and I set an in-person meeting to hash out the scope and the details of exactly what he needed. And then with all the notes that I had taken during our meeting, I went home and I wrote up a lengthy proposal document. I mean, multiple pages, outlined all the costs, the time frame for the delivery. It took me at least half a day for that first proposal. And then what inevitably happened. Things change, right? So Tom called me up and he said, "Hey, Brian, thanks for the proposal, but now I'm starting to rethink this project. I want to focus entirely on mobile now. So let's have another meeting. Let's schedule another day next week to meet and talk about all this all over again." All in all, this particular client discovery process involved 5 lengthy phone calls, at least a half an hour, some of them lasting more than an hour, 3 in-person meetings, 2 complete rewrites of the proposal. So that's 3 separate proposals that I had to type up. All in all, it was well over 40 hours of work. And as you may have guessed by now, no deal. That deal never happened. It turned out that this client wasn't truly serious, and all of that was a complete waste of my time. I wrote over 20 proposals that year, and they were for all sorts of clients: startups, e-commerce sites, blogs. I did some work for universities, some for nonprofits, you name it. I won some of those projects and I lost a lot of them. But every single time I had to reinvent my solution from scratch. Every client had different problems to solve. And that's what made this such a grind. There was no predictability. I needed, well, I knew that I needed to break out of this traditional model of freelancing. And so that's when I knew that I needed to productize, right? I needed something to sell other than just my time. I needed to turn my service, and for me that was web design, into a product. And then once I established my product, then I'd have something that I can scale so that I can level up my business. So about, let's see, more than 3 years, like 3.5, almost 4 years ago, I launched Restaurant Engine, and I've been running it and growing it ever since. And this allowed me to transition from being a freelance web designer, where I was serving basically anyone and everyone who came my way, to owning a product business. And in my case, it's a web design product that does one thing really well: websites for restaurants. Now, productizing my service and building this business has allowed me to truly level up. Our product makes a real impact for our customers, and they value it because it helps their businesses thrive. Our bottom line increases every year thanks to the recurring revenue model. And personally, I've been able to grow and support the small team. So, that's been a thrill for me the last couple of years. And that's what truly gives me satisfaction today. It's my typical workday. It's what that day looks like. So I'm no longer involved in the day-to-day service tasks. Today, Restaurant Engine essentially runs and grows completely without me, thanks to the systems and the processes that I've built around this productized service. So I spend my days focused on the bigger picture. I get to work on the business itself and my long-term goals. In fact, just last month, I went on a ski trip to Vermont with a bunch of fellow web entrepreneurs. Call that Big Snow Tiny Comp. It was a lot of fun. So I was up there in Vermont for a week, and during that time, Restaurant Engine signed up and billed 3 new customers. We set up and launched their websites, all without requiring 1 minute of my own time. My team was there to handle every step in the process, and we've had some automation built in as well. So over the past year, I've been writing and researching this productized consulting model quite a bit. And I even created a course on it, which I'll tell you about a little bit later. In my research, I found there were lots of folks having success with this productized consulting model, all in different and really inspiring ways. So right now, let me briefly tell you about 4 of the people that I've been speaking to. Nick DeSabato is a UX designer from Chicago. His productized offering is called Draft Revise. So through his product, Nick helps his clients improve their conversion rates by performing one A/B test every single month, and then implementing the successful result from that A/B test, and then starting the next A/B test for the following month. So through this product, Nick helps his clients improve their conversion rates, and it's priced on a recurring revenue model, which allows Nick to work with only a select number of clients who truly value his offer. And what I really like about what Nick has done here is he hasn't felt the need to scale up and grow a team. Instead, he designed his productized consulting to let him focus on the thing that he does best, which is conversion optimization, while building a more predictable revenue stream for himself. And many of you know Joanna Wiebe from the popular website Copy Hackers. Well, aside from the range of ebooks and other training products that they offer, Joanna has a productized consulting package called the No Fluff Website Review. And this is something that that they've been offering for years. And actually more recently, I think just in the last month or so, they launched a new productized service, which is kind of like the new and improved version of this. But essentially for a one-time fee in this No Fluff website review, Joanna will review a page of your copy, and she'll record a video with some actionable feedback along with documented copy ideas that you can use to improve your page. And what I really like about this example is how they've used this productized consulting offer not so much as their primary revenue source, but as kind of like a low friction way to add supplementary income while they build out the other parts of their business, like their other products. Jared Drysdale launched an offering called Landing Page in a Day. And he launched this just a couple months back, near the end of 2014. And essentially landingpageinAday.com, it does exactly what it sounds like. You book your one day, and Jared will design and write the copy and launch a landing page for your business. And actually, I had a chance to catch up with Jared a week or two ago, and it's only been a couple of months, and now he has like way more requests than he can handle. He's starting to hire people to take care of the copywriting work and the design work. But back when he launched this, he literally put up the landing page, wrote up the value proposition, and did that in one weekend. Then he sent it out to a few contacts and posted it in a few forums. And within just a couple of days, I think he posted it on Friday, and like by Tuesday, he had 7 paying clients. 7 people had booked their day with him and paid for their landing page in a day. And what I like about what Jared has done here is that he's been able to streamline his whole process. So if you have the question of how can you actually design and launch a custom landing page in one day or less than a day, the way that he actually does that, the way that he streamlined it, is that he has his own CSS framework that he created. That in itself was kind of like a standalone product, and he uses that to power his productized service, which is just awesome. Then Dan Norris. Many of us know Dan. He's the founder of WP Curve, a startup that has just been absolutely skyrocketing over the past year, more than a year now. They provide done-for-you WordPress support and service for a low monthly fee. And here's an example of taking a manual service like email customer support and live chat customer support and website tweaks and building it into a productized service designed to scale. Last time I checked in with Dan, they were serving several hundred customers. I think they're at least coming up on 1,000. I know that he publishes his monthly revenue report and customer report. It's just crazy. And I know that they have a growing team of, I think 25 or 26 at this point. So just absolutely killing it over there. So as you can see from these examples, there are so many different ways that you can be successful with the productized service model, otherwise known as productized consulting. It can have recurring revenue, or it can have a one-off price, or a combination of these. It can be something that you launch on the side, or it can become the central piece of your business. It can be something that allows you to stay solo, and that would allow you to focus in on your craft, or it can be designed to scale and grow a team. But every productized service shares some common attributes. So here's how I define a productized service or productized consulting. And this is what makes it different from the traditional model of freelancing and billing by the hour. So first, from your customer's perspective, a productized service offers a specialized, done-for-you solution with a compelling value proposition, packaged at a set price and a set scope. And from the founder's perspective, that would be you, a productized service is one that runs systematically and continues to produce and grow with or without your direct involvement. So today I'm going to show you the roadmap that you can take to productize your consulting and level up your business. And so I've broken today's lesson into 3 parts. It starts with a very important change in your mindset as you go from being a freelancer to a business owner. And I'll show you the difference between those things. And then we'll talk about value proposition. I'll give you a simple process for focusing in on one thing to productize. And then we'll look ahead to how you can design systems to help you scale and remove yourself from the work so that your productized service can actually run without you. Okay, so it starts with your mindset. You'll need to shift your perspective as a freelancer and become a business owner. So let's talk about what that actually means. Now, I'm guessing most of us here today are self-employed, working as freelancers and consultants. But that doesn't mean that we're immune from wanting a promotion, right? I mean, our friends over in the corporate world, they get promotions all the time. If they do good work and they play their office politics right, they just might get promoted to that corner office with the higher salary and more responsibility. Well, luckily, we don't have to deal with all those petty office politics. But I mean, we'd love to earn a little bit more and take on more responsibility and get to that next level, right? So if we're out here on our own, self-employed, how do we get a promotion? Well, we have to promote ourselves. And that starts with leaving our freelancer's mindset behind and taking on the mindset of a business owner. So here's what that actually means. A freelancer sells his or her time. And the only way that a freelancer is earning an income is when they're logging billable hours or working on a client's project. And this is why clients tend to view freelancers as a commodity. And this isn't more true than in the web design and development industry. I mean, prices are just continually just dropping and being pushed down. It's really being seen as a commodity these days. So a freelancer simply helps a client get the job done. But a business owner, on the other hand, sells value. They sell a solution to a problem, a solution that actually helps the client get ahead in some way. So freelancers work in their business. And working in your business means being tied up in the mundane, repetitive, busy work, putting out fires, all the things that are involved in servicing clients. You're caught up in debt and deadlines, fixing bugs. If you were to stop working in your business tomorrow, things can just fall apart. Now, a business owner, on the other hand, works on their business. And they work on the business itself, finding ways to add more value and streamline operations. So business owners recognize that their time is better spent focusing on the bigger picture and putting systems in place to allow this to happen. Freelancers live project to project. As long as projects keep coming in, a freelancer stays afloat. But at the end of the day, or at the end of the year, the only thing a freelancer really owns is their time. A business owner, on the other hand, builds their business into an asset that grows in value over time. And that can mean increasing revenue and a growing income from year to year, or it can even mean growing the value to become a saleable asset that can lead to some kind of lucrative exit. Now let's look at finding your one thing so that you can turn that into a productized service. It's important that you understand that you can't just pick anything to productize. There's a little bit more to it than that. So the first step in this process of productizing is to find your focus. And this is how you'll ultimately define your one thing to sell as a product. Now, there are 2 important pieces when it comes to finding your focus. First, you want to focus on solving one specific problem. And I'll give you a process to target what that problem should be in just a moment. But you need to target one problem and then design your offering to be the best possible solution to that problem. So the first part of finding your focus is to solve one problem with one solution. The next piece is to focus on serving one ideal client. You want to move away from working with anyone and everyone and move toward working with one specific type of client. And you're going to work with the client who experiences the problem most acutely, the client who would benefit more than anyone else from your solution. And once you figure out who your ideal client is, then your job is to find more and more of that same person. And that's a much easier task than if you're casting a wide net and working with anyone and everyone. Now, the reason why it pays to focus in on one problem with one solution for one ideal client is how you'll craft your killer value proposition. Now, remember I told you about how I used to write proposals for a wide variety of clients. I used to do proposals for e-commerce sites, membership sites, blogs, portfolios, you name it. Well, the problem was that by casting such a wide net, my message didn't resonate. I did so many different things for different people that I constantly had to reinvent my value proposition every time I wrote a new proposal. So by gaining focus and having one thing that you sell, you're able to find more of that ideal client who your message resonates with in a big way. Okay, so here is a high-level process that you can take to find your one thing as you begin to productize. A good place to start is by listing out everything that you currently do. So that would be all the different services that you've been providing as a consultant. An easy way to do this might be to look at different line items that show up on your invoices to clients. For example, back when I was a freelance web designer, my list included things like doing specs and wireframes, designing Photoshop mockups, cutting up a PSD to HTML, WordPress theme development, e-commerce sites, email newsletter creation, copywriting, logo design. I mean, the list went on. Next, take a hard look at that list and identify just a couple of the items that are high value. So now here's what I mean by high value. Look for the things that are highly sought after by your clients. And remember, just because you think something is high value doesn't necessarily mean that your clients do. So one way to identify these high value services is to identify some of the most common requests that you get from clients. Especially during those pre-project discovery meetings, what are the items that clients are asking about more than anything else? You know, what are those items that are like make or break in the eyes of your clients? For example, when I was doing these meetings a couple of years back, I noticed that just about every prospect that I talked to asked about mobile website optimization. So this showed me that mobile optimization was a high value service in the eyes of my clients. Next, you want to match up your services with the specific problem that it solves. And so how would you describe that problem? And more importantly, how do your clients describe that problem? So let's look at an example. And it's one of the ones that I mentioned earlier. This is Nick DeSabato's Draft Revise service. If you remember, Nick provides monthly A/B split testing, conversion optimization. So what's the problem that Nick is solving here? His clients need increased sales, and they know this should come from iterative improvements to their website, but they don't have the time or the know-how to make these ongoing improvements. So now that you're verbalizing what the problem is, you can begin to understand who might experience this problem. You may find there are lots of potential ideal clients who have this particular problem. Your job is to find out who experiences this problem most acutely. Who would stand to benefit more than anyone else from this service? Or more importantly, which clients would not be a great fit for this problem solution? Then you can start to distinguish like who is it really a fit for and who is it not, and then you can kind of move forward from there. So when I set out to create Restaurant Engine, I actually didn't know that restaurants would end up being my target customer at first. I started by identifying a problem, which was that there's a lot of friction between a small local business and getting all the pieces in place for a strong web presence. Even the cheap way, like using a theme and a few plugins, was way too technical for most small business owners to get up and running. And that was the problem that I aimed to solve. I wanted to streamline the process of launching a site with WordPress. But the key to making this work was to focus on solving this for one target customer. Otherwise, I would never be able to streamline and scale the service. So I went with restaurants because most restaurants lack the technical skills to get a site up and running on their own. And the other reason is a restaurant's website can actually make a real impact on their ability to attract more customers. So it's a high value focused service for one ideal client. Now, when I say that you should focus on one ideal client, does that mean that you should pick one industry to focus on, like I did with restaurants? Absolutely not. You can focus on broad characteristics that describe a client who experiences this pain. So back to Nick DeSabato and his service Draft Revise, Nick actually describes right on his landing page, he describes his ideal client as a small to mid-sized business with a website that is core to their business, with enough traffic to test effectively, so that would mean 3,000 monthly visitors or more, and they're capable of funding their web presence, but they don't have an in-house team to work on it. So those are specific characteristics of the type of client that he's designed his service for, but that's not necessarily one industry vertical. That can actually apply to a variety of verticals. Finally, understand that nothing here is set in stone, especially in the beginning. You can brainstorm and identify your one solution and one client fairly quickly, but you should be open to adjusting your focus as you learn more and more about your market. And that's the key to making this work. You must do everything that you possibly can to learn about your clients and what this problem actually means to them. And once you know that, your solution will present itself naturally. Okay, so now the third phase of your journey to a productized consulting business is to remove yourself from the work. And it's actually possible to design your business so that it can run with or without you. Even if you plan to remain solo, you should still pay attention to this section. And it's really important because it'll help you build predictability into the way that you operate, which is so important. Now, remember when I talked about the difference between being a freelancer and a business owner? And a key difference was that the business owner focuses on working on their business. Well, that's what this is all about here. Making your business itself your project and the focus of your attention. And that means that you'll need to remove yourself from the day-to-day service tasks so that you can focus more on the bigger picture and on the business itself. So at a high level, I'm going to give you a 5-step process to go from doing everything yourself to owning a business that can potentially run on autopilot. It begins with standardizing the work. And what I mean here is that you must settle on one standard way of delivering your service. Now, I'm sure that there are lots of different ways to accomplish the same task. Your goal here is to settle on only one of them. Choose one methodology, one framework, one set of tools. What you're doing is you're making the work as predictable as possible. You want to reduce the variation from the way that work gets done. So for example, one way that we standardize the work in Restaurant Engine is we've settled on a standard set of features that every site that we build has: a food menu, hours and location, and a handful of other features. We also only use WordPress, and we use responsive web design to optimize it for mobile. Now, there are plenty of CMS out there, but we only chose one, WordPress. And there are different ways to mobile optimize a website, but we go with responsive. And this is our standard foundation that we've built upon. The next step is to find ways to streamline the process of delivering the service. So here you're looking for ways to make the process more efficient, repeatable, and easier to execute. So this could mean optimizing your process and workflows, adding software tools to automate certain steps, using templates, etc. And these are all things that I've done in our business. So today, my team is able to completely set up a new client's website, typically in under 2 days, thanks to the way that we've streamlined the entire process. Next comes documentation, and this is a big one, and it's something that you'll do continuously over the lifetime of your business. So all of your processes must be documented into standard operating procedures. Your goal is to get all of the know-how out of your own head and documented so that it can be passed on to an employee and then again to the next person to step into that role. Now, this is really important to get across. Documentation takes a lot of time. You should plan to invest at least 2 to 3 times as much time as it would normally take you to simply do a task yourself. But remember, that extra time that you're putting in and all that extra care and effort that you're putting into your documents, that's going to pay off in the long run when you no longer have to do that task yourself again, and you can delegate it to someone else. So today in Restaurant Engine, we have over 50 procedures that my team carries out on a daily and a weekly basis. And here we're looking at one of them. This is the one for sending out our weekly email newsletter campaign, which promotes our latest blog post. So as you can see, I include lots of details and even some notated images and whatnot. And what we're looking at here is really only a piece. This is like the first 3 steps. I think this procedure has something like 10 or 12 steps. Your goal here, as you're creating procedures like this, is to make your teammates' job as easy as possible. Even if you don't have teammates yet, just think about this for the future as you're documenting your stuff now, even if you're still just solo. Give them everything that they would need to be successful and understand the process and do the task easily and effectively. And so if and when you're ready, you can begin to bring on a teammate or 2 so that you can start to delegate and remove yourself from some of the tasks. And I know how difficult it is for most of us to get comfortable with trusting someone else to do your work. You might find yourself saying, well, the task would get done so much faster if I just do it myself. And that's true. But then you'll have to do the task again yourself next week, and then the week after. And then before you know it, you have no time to work on other more important things to push your business forward. So here are some of the tips that I can give you when it comes to delegating to a team and just becoming comfortable with delegating. The first is just don't rush it. Do it yourself for a while. And while you're doing it yourself, focus on the 3 steps above. And then focus in on the repeatable tasks. It's easy to just hire someone to do something for you once. But if that task isn't required on a regular basis, then it's not an ideal place to start as you start to document and remove something from your routine. You're really looking for something that you see yourself doing every single week or every single day. And the last tip that I'll give you here is, just go slow, but trust fast. And what I mean there is delegate only one thing at a time and don't delegate everything all at once. But once you do bring on a teammate and you assign a repeating task to them, trust them with that responsibility as soon as you can. Let them make a mistake or 2. They will. That's inevitable. They need to make those mistakes in order to learn and ask you the right questions, and then keep going. So get those mistakes out of the way and be there to help them through it, and then just kind of set them off on their own. And of course, check in and whatnot, but you've got to let that go at a certain point. And finally, this is the most important step. It's the entire reason why you're removing yourself from the work, and that is to gain leverage. And once you free yourself from the repetitive daily service tasks. The question is, what will you do with that new free time that you've just freed up for yourself? Are you going to take a vacation and relax? Well, sure, maybe once in a while, but really now it's your time to focus in on your job, which is working on the business. Now's your chance to push your business forward. And maybe that's developing your marketing plan, talking to more of your ideal customer and learning more about them and who they are and their problems. Maybe it's creating more systems for your business to run more efficiently. Now that you have leverage and a product that you can sell, now you can start to grow and level up. I'm just going to take a drink of water here. Okay, so I just gave you 3 high-level strategies that you can use to productize your consulting or your business. So let's recap what those key takeaways were. It starts when you shift your mindset from that of a freelancer to the mindset of a business owner. When you promote yourself to business owner, you'll spend most of your time working on the business itself. Everything that you work on as a business owner contributes to building more value into the business. And in order to do that, you have to have something to sell. You must find your killer value proposition. And that means solving a high value problem with one solution designed for one ideal client. And once you've established your productized offering, your value proposition, you're ready to systematize and grow. And that requires an ongoing process of systematically removing yourself from the day-to-day service tasks so that your business can ultimately run without you. What will you do with all that free time? Well, you'll spend it working on your business, improving it, leveling up. So now the question is, how will you put this into action right now in 2015? So today I just gave you the high-level strategy and the roadmap here in today's material. But of course, there is so much more that I'd love to share with you and flesh out with you. The exact systems, the processes, the marketing ideas, things that will actually help you launch and grow your productized consulting offering in 2015. And so that is what my course Productize is all about. And before I get into the open Q&A where I'll answer everybody's questions here today,